Okay guys, so we're going to kill this lobster before we cook it, and we do this for a couple of reasons. One, it's more humane. It kills the lobster more quickly than it would if we put it directly into boiling water. And the other reason that we're going to do this is because it actually is going to allow the muscle tissue to relax so that the lobster ends up being more tender in the end result. So the first thing we're looking for is there's two lines on the forehead, on the head of the lobster, one that goes crosswise and one that runs lengthwise. We're gonna put the tip of the knife at that point, and then we're gonna go full pressure straight down and forward. There we go. Kills the lobster immediately. And one thing I want to note, you want to make sure that you have a towel on your non-dominant hand to hold the tail in place while you kill the lobster. Okay, then we're gonna cook it. I will show you how to take the meat out after. We're gonna cook the lobsters here in the giant pot of boiling water. Really important that you give your lobsters plenty of space so that they cook evenly. If you crowd the pot, you're gonna end up with uneven cooking for the lobsters. And we're gonna salt the water. Seawater is a great thing to cook lobsters in, and so we're gonna simulate that. So we're gonna make this salty like the ocean. Okay, probably a good cup of salt for this. This is a really large pot, so you want to get that. So sometimes after you kill them, you'll get some twitching. That's just the nerves after the kind of seizing up after the animal's died. So we've already cut through its brain. It's definitely dead, but don't be alarmed if it twitches a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and lower them in. These are 1.5 pounders, something in that neighborhood. We're gonna cook them in here for about 12 minutes or so. And we're gonna have it at a low, just below a boil, a full simmer for the whole cooking time. Okay, so we cooked our lobster for about 12 minutes or so. And we're gonna take it apart now. We're gonna remove the meat from the shell. So this is kind of a process here. All right, first thing, you need to have a kitchen rag because some of the points on the shell are pretty sharp, so you want to protect your hands. First thing we're going to do is separate the body from the tail. And we're going to do that by twisting and pulling. Okay, just like that. See that orange stuff in there? That indicates that this is a female. That's the roe sac, so that's the eggs. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing with the claws. We're going to protect our hand from the spikes. Hold it by the body and twist and remove. Twist and remove. Same thing here. Twist and remove all these little legs. Okay, they're coming off. All right, this is nothing good to eat in here, but this is great for making stock. You want to remove the gills by pulling up on the top of the shell. And this is all the good stuff for stock. Right, just like when we make chicken stock and we use chicken bones, when we make shellfish stock, we use the shells. And here are the gills. They tend to make the lobster meat murky, muddy tasting, a little bit sandy, so we always want to make sure that we remove the gills. So this part goes away, always. No use for that. We'll get rid of that. Okay, so that leaves us with all the parts where we get the meat, which is the tail, the claws, the knuckles, okay, and the legs. All right, tail's the easiest. The first thing we want to do is simply crunch, okay, to break the shell. Okay, and then we can just slide that right out. Lobster stock, really great. So we want to save that. There's our tail meat. Okay, and remember it's closely related to a shrimp, so we can peel back just like we do with the shrimp. You can see the egg sac right there. That's the end of the egg sac. But just like a shrimp, you can also see the digestive tract in there, so we can pull that out as well and discard that. All right, so there's our tail. And from here, you can do anything you want. You can chop it, dice it, eat it whole. You know, it's ready to go. All right, the legs, there's not a whole lot of meat in these. This is especially because this is a pretty small lobster. But what you want to do is use the back side, the blunt edge of the knife, and you can just kind of squeeze what's in there right out. You don't need the sharp part of the knife. And you'll get a little bit out of each section of the leg. So some people just throw the legs into the stock or into making broth or something. But if you want to go through the hassle, you can get all this little bit of meat just by pressing the legs like that, and it'll kind of squeeze right out of there. Okay, so you do that for the legs. Okay, claws next. We're gonna first separate the knuckles from the claw. Okay. You basically just want to bend backwards against the joint. So if it's naturally bends, you know, this way, you're gonna bend the opposite way. Okay, and the meat just kind of pops right out of these. You can use your fingers to kind of press it through. Some people use a skewer to do that, a wooden skewer. And you get that knuckle meat. That's really good meat. Never waste the knuckle meat. And again, stockpile. All this is going into the stock. Definitely don't throw your lobster shells away. Great for making like lobster risotto. You might want a lobster broth to do that. A lot of things. You can make various fish stews and soups. So a lot of uses for the stock. All right, we're gonna break open the claw here with the back of the knife. Be careful when you do this. And what we're gonna do is remove the bottom section of the claw. So this is gonna give us a handle to be able to pull this claw out whole. Okay, we're also going to take the pincer, which the pincer wants to move this way, so we're gonna go the other way, like that. Gentle back and forth. And our goal here is to see if we can pull this out. Yeah. Okay, it's falling off a little bit, but the goal is to have it intact if you can. And then we're gonna throw that in the stockpile. And then we can slide the whole claw right out of there. That white stuff on there is coagulated protein called albumin. Same protein that we have in eggs. Okay, and that's it. So that's your goal, is to get that whole claw out of there. If it breaks, of course, you're still gonna use the claw meat, but that's our goal. Okay, so we get claws, knuckles, legs, and tail. That's the meat that we get out of the lobster. And then we get the shells. We're gonna use those for stock. And the gills and the inside of the head, that's going in the trash.